A dominant champion can sometimes in WWE be seen as frustrating and lazy if done wrong, like some champions throughout WWE history. But when done right, it can be the ultimate gateway for intense storylines that can elevate characters, which makes the product more fun and interesting. For this example, I'm going to use Roman Reigns from 2020 to 2024. Roman Reigns didn't just have the 4th longest title reign of all time, standing at an astounding 1,316 days. He set the standard of what long-term dominance should look like and defined a major era in WWE history. To me, his title reign was more than just about how long he held it, so this video isn't going to be a statistic rant, but more so going over what a dominant champion used to look like, why did Roman Reigns' title reign stand out more than theirs, the Bloodline storyline, and the reinvention of Roman Reigns and how it led to the perfect payoff between him and Cody Rhodes. Because when it comes down to most art formatic products, the payoff is what really matters. Before Roman Reigns, we quite had a few title reigns that reached just over 1 year. For WWE, it's pretty rare for guys to reach a larger threshold when holding the title for multiple reasons. One being that in entertainment, it's never the best idea to just drag the program, and usually the title reigns typically become stale a little over time, so it's always best to go from person to person to keep things fresh. So before Roman, Rhea, Cody, or anyone who's held the title for over a year, 1 year as WWE champion was rare, once in a blue moon, almost like. As we go throughout WWE history, it varies from each era, while typically lowering down time after time. The 60s and 70s were like 500 to 1,000 days was the standard. So that means only a few world champions, mainly because it was more territorial, but I'll go over that in just a second. The golden era lowered with only 300 to 500 on average, which is still a lot, but it's a lot less than the previous era. The Attitude Era even got down a little lower with 60 to 120 days. This was the times to where shock value was at its highest, so it made sense. And the value within the WWF title dropped as it being in your performance that mattered and not a championship. Now, the Ruthless Aggression era raised it a little bit, going up to 100 to 200 days on average, and this era had a ton of long title reigns, especially with John Cena's reign in 05, but there were also a ton of short title reigns to balance it out a little bit. Now, with the modern era for the entire 2010s, 3 to 6 months was the normal standard on average, especially with fans being more impatient and demanding than they ever been throughout the history of WWE. Even with the growth of the ICW fans normally get tired really quick, so 1 year was considered a long time. Anything more than that seemed impossible, so let's take Bruno Sammartino's record for example. During his time, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation was more territorial, which was a completely different style than what you see today. There was no weekly live TV shows, no monthly pay-per-views, while for the most part built around just live small audiences and not based on ratings. The culture was different because it didn't value the iconic moments, skill, and storylines to make things legit. Bruno Sammartino wrestled consistently, even in different states year-round, but because WWE wasn't televised yet, only fans in person was able to see the matches, so fans rarely saw the same matches, rarely saw title changes, but also didn't expect them either. Also, adding in the fact that there were only a few legit main eventers, not as many as legit as Sammartino. But back then, charisma and skill didn't really matter. It was more so about who realistically felt unbeatable, while kayfabe was at its most protected. In today's WWE, we as fans expect fresh, cohesive storylines, character work, and in-ring work, and that's how being the best is determined nowadays. A 6 to 8 year WWE title reign is quite literally impossible in current age, especially with the overexposure of the wrestlers and social media, and fans being more high maintenance than before, expecting way more of the product than fans back then. Fans back then thought, who can really stop this guy? So the business somewhat needed to keep him as champion as long as they possibly can to protect the illusion. I say all of that to put in proper context on how Roman Reigns' title reign being shorter than Bruno Sammartino's reign is true and looks less dominant on paper, but Roman's is still yet more impressive when you break it down completely. Roman Reigns didn't have the opportunity to benefit from a limited exposure and kayfabe being at its most protected, a limited roster with one that can really challenge his identity on top of that. Roman made it through weekly live television shows, social media, fan fatigue, and a more title-changing era. Before 2020, Roman Reigns was the chosen one because he had the look that WWE typically always favored, but he obviously wasn't ready yet. He was the most hated babyface in WWE history, and it wasn't his time yet, and the fans knew it. He was booked to win most matches, even if it didn't make sense. It was framed to be the unstoppable hero. Everything about him felt forced and unauthentic. That all changed in the summer of 2020, and after a 4-month hiatus, Roman Reigns returns to SummerSlam, but right away you realize this is a different version of him. This version of Roman Reigns didn't want to ask for approval anymore. He was just gonna take it. That's when the Tribal Chief character was created. It was a philosophy about being obsessed with wanting respect, but with the dominance psychologically being impactful towards any challenger that would step up. When you add in the Bloodline storyline on top of that, it made him even more powerful, almost like a final boss kind of way. He was the head of the table, meaning he was leading a dynasty of the best manager in WWE history and arguably the greatest tag team in WWE history, and making them the most powerful family in WWE history. Together, it was a system that had family loyalty, politics, and authority, which created drama for each feud because they were the most dominant force in WWE during that period. That's why every match felt so special and why every opponent felt worthy enough to take on Roman Reigns, and every challenger felt like a threat to the system that he created. Piece by piece, things unraveled over time and slowly ended the Bloodline based on things that I mentioned before, and about time we get to WrestleMania 40, the Bloodline was in shambles, not because Roman Reigns was weak, but because he lacked control, which means he lacked power as WWE champion. A year before that point is when things took a turning point that slowly led to the downfall of the Bloodline, and I'm talking about the Sami Zayn era of the story. During the time before Sami Zayn joined the Bloodline, everything was built by power coming from fear, meaning that loyalty was forced and not earned, but created through intimidation. But once Sami Zayn arrived, he exposed that loyalty could be earned and not forced, which made Roman Reigns less powerful. Once the Usos were able to accept Sami Zayn, the loyalty was shifted from we serve Roman to we protect each other. This led to Roman Reigns looking more vulnerable and vulnerable as time went on, and even eating a pinfall from Jey Uso in the process, which hasn't been done in 4 years leading up to that point. Usually WWE champions, especially longer reigning champions, can stagnate the roster and made others look weak, leaving themselves to thrive. But because of the Bloodline storyline, it turned Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes into generational baby faces. It made Jey Uso into something that no one expected. It elevated Solo Sikoa, but lastly, it made the payoff between him and Cody Rhodes the biggest payoff in WWE history from the standpoint of WWE championship victories. What made this payoff so special was every moment leading up to this that mattered. Cody Rhodes before this rivalry was an up-and-coming babyface that needed one final test to put him over the top. The final collapse began on the biggest stage in WWE, WrestleMania. Finishing the story of the American Dream meant so much for this angle because Cody Rhodes was chasing a legacy that his father didn't have, which was winning the WWE Championship. Beating Roman Reigns in the process would be like doing the impossible. So when Cody Rhodes was up against Roman Reigns in the rematch, Roman lost control of the Bloodline, and certainly which made him feel more vulnerable than he ever has before. For the first time, you saw an opposite shift in that WWE title reign because Cody Rhodes stood supported by belief. Meanwhile, Roman was alone, and at least compared to Cody, symbolically, it was in the ending sequence of WrestleMania 40 when the protection that Roman Reigns had didn't work. Jimmy Uso was taken out by Jey Uso, John Cena takes out Solo Sikoa, and lastly, The Undertaker takes out The Rock, which left Roman Reigns completely alone for the first time in years, which leaves him at his most vulnerable. When Cody Rhodes finally defeated Roman, it means he outlasted the system that's been dominating WWE over the last 1,000 plus days. Losing at the previous WrestleMania made this moment feel more earned because him losing at WrestleMania 39 pushed the idea of the hero suffering a temporary downfall to eventually fight his way to get another opportunity. It's called redemption, and without that, WrestleMania 40 does not hit the same. It's also why you see him go through so much adversity to get back to the main event scene after defeating Brock Lesnar to win in the Royal Rumble in back-to-back years, which hasn't been done since 1998 when Steve Austin did it. Finishing the story made Cody Rhodes the biggest babyface in WWE, bigger than he was before. Without this title reign, this moment would just feel like another meaningless title change. But instead, it felt like the birth of a new era with a natural conclusion to a dominant storyline. This was the payoff that was needed and was earned. When I think about a complete title reign, as far as legitimacy and a great payoff, this was one of the reigns that comes to mind. Not many WWE title reigns have all of these things combined. This title reign made Roman Reigns into one of the biggest stars that WWE has ever had throughout the course of history. Before this, everything seemed too forced and unearned, but now he has it all. To go from all of that to this is insane in itself, but to also refine an era was the cherry. Well, that's all I have for today, and this is one example of what the art of a dominant champion looks like in WWE and what it really means to be one. If you like simple breakdown analyst videos like this, stay tuned for more because there will be more on the way. And until next time,